Okay, so it's lesson 8, it's part 2, and we're going to look at some options for for navigation in an Android app. And probably some of you explored. Did anybody use any kind of navigation tool in your assignment already? Let's see, a lot of yeses, so I'll take that as a no. So we've got a bunch of different components, different ways. So a lot of the guidelines, okay, you've got a back button. A lot of the guidelines come from material design as to sort of standardizing navigation. So the typical way, and what we're going to use, is the app bar. So our navigation is going to kind of look like this. We're going to add some icons in here. These slides are on Blackboard for you to reference. So some different examples of what app bars might look like. So we can have a little menu. We can have this settings to pop open submenus. We can use text or icons. We're going to use icons in our app bar. We've got a navigation drawer. So that's a left side navigation that slides out. There's bottom navigation, where we can include buttons that are anchored at the bottom. We've got tab navigation as well. So the app bar, it's kind of like a toolbar. It sits around at the top, and it's fairly predictable. Users expect to see a title and typically icons. And if we've got a menu or settings, we usually expect that on the right, and navigation on the left or occasionally on the right. So you'll notice, in order to use it, our activities have to extend APPCOMPATACTIVITY, which they do. There, we don't need it. If we go and open up our activities, you'll see by default they extend APPCOMPATACTIVITY. So we can use the toolbar. Now, when we use a theme, that typically prevents the app from using the native action bar class. So we're going to change our theme to have no action bar. And then we're going to add a toolbar, and we're going to make our toolbar shared. So we want one toolbar that's shared among the profile, the list, and the main activity. And then to enable it, we need to call this method, we need to call set support action bar. So again, putting the toolbar control in our XML, that's part of it, but we manually need to call it and instantiate it at runtime. And then we can create a menu file that defines the different items in our toolbar menu. We can set up icons, and then we set out actions. What should happen when each menu item is clicked. So we'll inflate the menu at runtime, and then we can handle the options when the menu gets clicked. So this is just a reference. It's up on Blackboard for you, and we're going to go through these steps together. So let's see. I'm going to actually switch our code back on sign-in. We no longer need to load the profile activity directly. So I'm going to go back first to my sign-in activity, and I'm just going to undo the change I made here. It should be that the list activity is the first activity that comes up. We only put the profile activity up because we didn't really have any other way to get to the profile right now. So I'm going to switch this back to my list activity. And then we're going to open up the Android manifest. So we want our theme to be the no action bar. Now I'm just going to check. I wanted this to be APPCOMPAT. Dot day night dot no action bar. So we're going to set this as our theme in our Android manifest. Because we don't want the action bar to hide our toolbar. Just going to run the app again for a moment. This should also fix now that I've reverted my theme. I should get my colors back from our styles, our themes, our themes.xml. Run the app again. Should give us back our purple and green theme, I think. But it didn't. Okay, so it loads our list activity. So before we add our toolbar, I want to add 3 images to the app. I'm just going to go back to my themes here. Not sure why it's not using my colors, but I'll figure that out. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, got this dark green color. So I want to add 3 vector assets, 3 icons to the app, and then we'll create a toolbar and with 3 options, and each one will use one of the icons we want to add. So I'm going to go to my resource drawable. So maybe let's see, I'll take this color. I'm actually going to grab click browse. So I'm going to go into my themes. And I'm going to pick one of these colors. I'm going to click on it. Then I click on this teal 700 and click browse. And this is going to give me the hex value here that I want. So it's 018786 is the hex number I want. So I'm going to create my icons in this color. I'll just write down that number. So I'm going to create 3 vector assets. So I'm going to right click on my resource. I'm going to create a new vector asset. I'm going to click on my clip art here. And I'm going to search for the icon library. Whoops. I'm going to pick this one, this library add. So the same icon we already used in our floating action button. But we made that one white. I now want one and I want to make the color green. I'm going to click library add. I'll keep the size at 24 pixels, but I'm going to change the color. So I want my color, I'm going to use that hex value. Which was 018786. So I'm going to use this green color for my icons. You can use any color you like. So this icon is I want this to be the first icon on the toolbar. This will load our main activity where we can add a new restaurant. So the icon's kind of descriptive, we're adding. So I've used this library add. You don't have to use this icon. You can pick any icon you like, and you can pick any color you like. So I'm going to add that. Now I've already got an icon here with that name. So actually I should rename it. I'll call it library add, maybe I'll call it dark. I'll just give it a unique name so it doesn't overwrite the white version of the icon we've already got. Okay, so pick any icon, make sure the name is unique, give it any color you'd like to give it. So this is going to add my dark icon here. I now also want to add a version of our list icon that we've got, but I want to add a dark green one as well. So again, I'll make a new vector asset. This time I'm going to search for list and pick the same icon we've used for our list of restaurants. And again, it should default to my last color choice. So now I'm going to have a green version of the icon for my toolbar. The previous list version we have is white. So again, I'll change the name here to IC baseline list dark. So I know this is the dark version as opposed to the white version. And I'll add that. And then I want one more. I want an icon that we'll use to load the profile activity. So I'm going to create a new vector asset. For this, I'm going to search for account. And I'm going to choose this icon. I've got a few options here. I like this one, the account box. So I'm going to pick that one. And again, I'll maybe change the name to account box dark. So I'll have 3 green icons, an add, a list, and an account. So I'm going to use these 3 icons in our menu, and then we're going to attach the menu to a toolbar. And then we're going to attach the toolbar to our 3 activities. So it's a fairly modular approach. Okay, so go ahead and add 3 vector assets. Pick any icons you like and any colors you like. And then we're going to go ahead and create a menu XML resource file. It's not a full activity, it's just an XML resource that's going to define the items in our menu. So once I've got my icons, I'm going to right-click my resource folder, and I'm going to click a new Android resources file. So again, it's resource, new, Android resources file. Let's click that. My file name is going to be main_menu. And my resource type, I'm going to change it from values to menu. So my file name is main_menu, and the resource type is menu. And it's going to create a new directory called menu underneath the resources folder. I'll click OK. And once it opens, I'm going to go into the code view, and I want to define what this menu looks like. So we're going to create 3 items here. So my first item, I'll give it an ID, and I'll call this one action add. The title, we can reuse our string value. We want it to say add a new restaurant. That's the title. And Android Studio even shows us the resource name. Our icon, Android icon, this is going to be my drawable I want the baseline library add dark. So this is the new, one of the new three new icons we added, and it's the dark one. I don't want the white version. I want the dark green one. And you can see it previews it and shows me the icon in green. And lastly, we're going to add an app show as action equals to if room. So long as there's room on the toolbar, we display it. Now it complains here, doesn't know, but we can create a namespace declaration for the app tag. So there's our first item. I will put all this code up on Pastebin as well. So I want to create two more items. My second one, I want action list, and my third one is going to be action profile, and we're going to use the other two icons that we just added to the project. So this one I'll call action list, will be the ID. We'll create a new string resource called list restaurants. We'll set the icon as our drawable. IC baseline. And I want the list dark. So this will be the new green icon we just added. And you can see the options for when to show. Show it always, show it never, show it and include the text, or just show if room. And I'm going to need to create this string resource. So I'll use the code prompt. And my value will say list restaurants. And we want this to go in strings.xml. And I'll create one more item with our profile icon. So this will be action profile. We'll create a new string resource called profile. And our icon will be the third one we added. That's my account box dark. And again, we'll show this menu item if we've got room. So we can see the three icons are being previewed here in the bar on the left. I'll create my string resource. So it just says my profile. So here's our full menu file. You're welcome to grab it. Your icon names might not match mine though. So if you've used different icons, you'll want to replace any icon names in the XML. Here's the link. And I'll leave this up for a moment in case you need it. Okay, so I added the app definition, the app namespace, and the 3 items into the menu bar. Our next step is going to be to create a new toolbar XML resource. So we create the menu bar and the toolbar separately. It seems kind of strange. And then we load the menu into the toolbar at runtime, and then we load the toolbar into each activity at runtime. So it's telling me as well, we don't necessarily need these closing tags. I could just do this. I guess that's more efficient. I can self-close the item tags. You don't have to. Android Studio is advising me to do it, so I will. Any questions so far? Anybody confused? Lost? Anything you need to see again in this process? So we've added the icons we need as vector assets. We've set up our main menu XML resource. And we can see now that inside of the RES folder, we now have a menu subfolder. So all our menus will go, if we have additional menus, they'll go in this subfolder. Inside our layout, we've got our activities as well as our recycler view template for the comments and restaurants. So our next step is to create a toolbar layout in here. So I'm going to right-click my RES layout folder, and I'm going to create a new layout resources file. I'm going to call this toolbar main.xml. The root element will be a constraint layout by default, and the directory name is layout. So create toolbar main, and we're going to put a toolbar control in here. I'm going to jump into the code, and I'll add a toolbar. So we're going to add an Android X AppCompat widget toolbar. We're going to give it an ID. I'll call it top toolbar, just in case we have another toolbar somewhere else. Our layout width will match the parent. So it's going to be as wide as our whatever activity it sits in. The height, we want to wrap the content. So we only want the height as tall as the content inside the toolbar. So layout height will wrap. Our background, we're going to use our we'll use our color, our accent color. We'll set our min height to the size of our action bar. And we'll set our theme or action bar theme. And we want to anchor this to the top of the parent. So we'll set top to top of parent. I can put this in paste bin. We may play around with it a bit, but we'll see. May need to change the background color. Oh yes, because that's maybe I want a different color. You know, I'm going to leave the background out for now, just for a moment. We may play around with that. I'll put this on paste bin. And give you the link. We may have to adjust how it looks. So now I want to embed this toolbar. I'm going to put it first in the main activity, and then we'll add it to our, I'm going to put it first in list activity. Once we're happy with it, we'll add it to main and profile as well, but we'll do one activity at a time. So I'll go to my activity list, and above my first text view, we're going to use an include. So we're going to include our layout with our toolbar. Our width is going to match the parent, and our height will wrap the content. So we're putting the toolbar here. Now it's going to overlap with this text view now. We'll leave it, but we're going to need to, because both of these are anchored to the top. We'll try it, but we're going to need to wind up moving this text view down. We'll have to add either a top margin or some padding at the top. But we can leave it for now. So add the toolbar, and then we're going to need to enable the toolbar and inflate the menu into the toolbar to get it to show. So once you've added the toolbar to your XML, we want to open up the activity list.kt so we can write the few lines of code we need to enable the toolbar and inflate the menu into it. So I'll close a few things up. I need to go to my list activity. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of my onCreate, and I'm going to instantiate our toolbar. So we're going to call set support action bar. With our top toolbar. And the top toolbar is declared in that separate resource file, so we need to import it. So when I add the import, I get a reference now to our toolbar main resource. So this activates the toolbar, And now we want to inflate the menu. So we need an override. We need two overrides, one to display the menu and then one to handle the events in it. We'll just deal with the display first. So our two overrides to display menu and enable its functionality. So the first function we're going to override is the onCreate function. So we get a menu passed in. So what we're going to do instead is we want to inflate the main menu to add the items to the toolbar. So like we've inflated a layout, we're now going to inflate a menu. So we're going to call the inflate method. And now we've got to provide the name of the menu we want to inflate, which will be r.menu. So inside our menus folder, our main menu. And we want to return true in this case. So our menu isn't going to do anything. Clicking it won't do anything yet. We're going to need a separate override for that. Not sure where my comment went. So first, we're just going to try the first override. Just show the menu. Right now, clicking it won't do anything. So we'll need a second override for the onOptionsSelected method. But let's run our app like this. So I've added my set support action bar, and I've added this override to onCreate options. Let's see if our toolbar will show up on our list activity. So I'm going to launch it. If it shows up, we'll then need our second override. And once that's working, we can basically just copy our include and this code to our main and profile activities as well. So I think we should be able to do that by about 1 o'clock today, and then we'll wrap up. So we'll sign in, and it'll load our list activity. So we've got our toolbar with our icons, but you'll notice it's overlapping. Things are a bit too high, so I want to add a top margin to my heading text view. I want to push everything on the page down just a little bit. And notice that also the menu buttons aren't functional. I can click them, but nothing actually happens. So we're on the right track. In my activity list, we're constrained to the top of the parent, but I'm going to add a margin here. So I'll add a margin top, and I'll create a dimension of top margin, which I think I'll set at 60 dp. This should push my heading down enough that it appears below the toolbar. So I'll add that dimension at 60 dp. and just try it again. I probably want to do the same on my two other activities. Whatever item's at the top, I'll want to push that down using that same margin of 60 dp. And maybe I even, okay, so maybe 60 is a bit much. Maybe I'll shrink it, and I might even add a bottom margin here as well, because my recycler view is kind of pushed right up against it. So I'm going to adjust that. Maybe that's a bit too far. So I'll go to my values, demands. Maybe I'll make that 40. And I'm going to make, I also want this to be my top and my bottom margin. So I'll say margin top as well as margin bottom. Actually, well, I could just do margin vertical. Better. So I'm changing my margin to 30 dp. Instead of just a top margin, I'm also going to add a bottom margin. We'll see how it looks. Okay, that looks better. So the only other thing I need to do now in this activity is override the options selected, which will actually make these buttons functional. When I click them right now, nothing happens. So I'm going to go back to my list activity and add our second override. For once, I'll type the word override correctly. So we want it on our options item selected. So I'm going to override that. So in this case, we want to read the ID of the item. And we want to call different actions depending on what the ID is. So in this case, so navigate based on which menu item was clicked. Right, so in our menu, keep in mind, we have three actions. Action add, so there's our IDs. Action add, action list, and action profile. So when our item ID is action add, we want to create an intent to load the main activity. And we'll return true. If the action is list, we don't need to do anything. They're on the list activity. You could give an ID to the included layout and define. Okay, yep, that's a good idea, Edwin. We could do that. That would work as well. So Edwin's suggesting if we give an ID to the included layout, we could then just anchor the heading text view below it. Good idea. That would work as well. Thank you for the suggestion. True. Thank you for that suggestion. I'm going to leave it for now, but that is a great idea. So if the action is action list, here we're just going to return true. And if the menu action is action profile, we want to load the profile activity. So we'll create intent. So here's our other override. I'm going to ignore that suggestion. Oh, whoops. And then we need to return. I shouldn't have taken that out. The super dot on options item selected with the item. So this code is almost identical on our other two activities, except obviously we're going to toggle based on which activity we're on. So I'll put this method into the paste bin. We'll try it out, and if it works, we'll basically copy the toolbar and the code to our other two activities. And then our navbar should be working. You know, I am going to do what Edwin suggested. I think that is a better suggestion. Thank you. Rather than the margins, if I give this an ID, if I give it an ID of, let's say, main toolbar, I could anchor my heading text view to the bottom. That works. Then I don't need the margins. So my toolbar should show up at the top, and now our little icons on there should be functional. And now I have a way to get into the profile activity. So I'll sign in. Yes. Good suggestion. Thank you. Good idea. I appreciate the suggestions. I'll rerun that. So I'll change my recycler view to wrap the content. Yeah, the worst teachers are the ones who think they always know better than their students, right? Okay, I'll sign in. Okay, so yeah, my heading's below, and now my toolbar is working. When I'm on the list activity and I click list, nothing happens, but now I can navigate to my profile as well as to the main activity. So I'm almost done. This is functional now. I basically just want to copy my toolbar and the code we added to our list to instantiate the toolbar, inflate the menu, and then handle the menu options. So I'm going to add this first to main activity, then I'm also going to add it to my profile activity. And then we're done. So I'm going to open up activity main. First, I'll take my toolbar and I'll paste it in here. I'll change my first text view. Instead of being anchored to the top of the parent, I'll anchor it to the bottom of my toolbar. I'm then going to just copy all the code from the list activity, and I'll just toggle it so that right now, because in the code in there is no code to handle the list button. So I'm going to go back to my list activity. I'm going to copy the end of my onCreate, and I'm going to copy my two overrides. I'll go to my main activity, and I'll override this last bracket inside onCreate so I can paste in this code. So my toolbar gets enabled at the bottom of onCreate. I'm overriding, so I'm inflating the menu. I'm just going to toggle this. So this action add, I'm going to grab this start activity and change it to my action list. So it will open up the list activity. Edwin, I don't know the answer to that. I've never tried to use it. I suspect it would, but I can't say for certain. But I believe so. So now when I'm on the main activity, the add icon does nothing. The list icon loads the list activity. Profile icon loads the profile activity. I'm now going to go and do the same thing. We're just going to apply it to the profile activity as well, because I'm really just copying and pasting here. So again, I'll grab my toolbar from the XML view, and we'll go to my profile layout. I'll add my toolbar. And my name text view, I'm now going to anchor it below my toolbar. I'm then going to copy that code again from the Kotlin file. So the last line and the closing curly brace of my onCreate, as well as my two overrides, copy those. I'll open the profile activity, and I'll just highlight and remove that last curly brace that closes onCreate by pasting. So I've now instantiated my toolbar at the end of my onCreate. I've got my two overrides for the menu. And again, whoops, in my activity profile, I'll return true. And I'll move my intent up to, this time, to my add. And this will load our main activity. Our action list loads our list activity. Our action profile just stays here, doesn't really do anything. I think I missed the return true down here. I'm going to run it and make sure I can navigate anywhere I want between the main activity, the list activity, and the profile activity. All three should have an identical toolbar. Now, you're certainly free to experiment with some of the other navigation types that are outlined in the slides. You don't have to use this toolbar at the top. It's just one option. So on my list, I can go to add. From add, I can go to profile. From profile, I can go back to add. So I can get anywhere I need to now. We don't even really need these floating action buttons. We just need our logout. But the action buttons we put to navigate between list and add, I don't even really need those anymore, because now we've got our toolbar. I know I messed up my color themes. I've got a chance. I'll try and sort that out. I'm going to make it a priority to get your assignments marked first. But our nav is basically done for today. And it is exactly 1 o'clock. So that was everything I wanted to cover today. I'm going to push what I've done to GitHub. So there is a quiz for next week. And then next week, we're going to look at deploying your app. Does anybody have any questions for today? All right, all our code is uploaded. I will send out instructions before next week around how to register for your Google Play account. Probably be a good idea to do that before class next week. So I'll send out some instructions on that next week, and I will get to work marking your assignments. Okay, so I will let the videos process, and I'll also get those uploaded a little later this afternoon.